Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, welcome. I am really glad that Foreign Minister Mevlüt Çavuşoğlu are here with us in the Council of Europe, and that the chair of the Committee of Ministers, Mrs. Kaljurand, took the initiative to convene this meeting in order to show solidarity with Turkey and also to discuss how things can be followed up after the coup attempt based on the European Convention on Human Rights. I went very soon to Turkey after the military coup attempt to demonstrate the Council of Europe solidarity and to say that political power must come from ballot box, not from guns and tanks. It was absolutely unacceptable what happened, and also to convey to the Turkish authorities that we are here to assist in the following up and to say that the European Convention and the case law of the court is a very good guide when one is starting to take on those who are responsible for this military coup attempt. What is important for us is, of course, that all the judicial safeguards are in place for those who are being accused, and that the principle of the presumption of innocence prevails, which means that there has to be presented clear evidences against those who are being accused. And it is important for us to work with Turkey, and it's important for Turkey to work with us in order to prevent that the flow of applications may land in the Court of Human Rights here in Strasbourg. So this is why we have entered into such a good constructive dialogue. A big delegation came from Turkey last week, and sitting down with our experts to discuss all these matters, and the fact that Mr. Çavuşoğlu is here today only underlines the good interaction we have started on.
Thank you. Today's exchange of views between the Committee of Ministers and the Foreign Minister of Turkey, Mr. Çavuşoğlu, and I dare to say my very good friend and colleague Mevlüt, is the result of a series of high-level contacts which have taken place between Turkey and the Council of Europe. As Secretary General Jagland said, there were consecutive visits to Turkey. We visited Turkey both Secretary General at the beginning of August, and I did it at the end of August, and we had very good discussion with Turkish authorities. We expressed our solidarity with the Turkish authorities, but also discussed the assistance which the Council of Europe could provide with regard to its basic values, namely human rights, democracy, and rule of law. Turkey has taken a number of measures under the state of emergency proclaimed after the attempted coup. At the same time, Turkey has undertaken some commitments under the Council of Europe conventions, in particular the European Convention on Human Rights. These commitments relate to very important matters which may be impacted by the state of emergency. I have in mind, for example, the question of the right of fair trial for those who will be brought to justice after the events of the 15th of July. Other issues concern the independence of the judiciary, the right to freedom of expression and freedom of the media, the prohibition of ill treatment, among others. As Secretary General said, last Friday, experts from the Turkish Ministry of Justice came to Strasbourg to discuss the compatibility of the decree laws enacted after the state of emergency with the requirements of the Human Rights Convention. This is very clear expression of will by Turkish government to continue being involved and to cooperate closer with the Council of Europe. These are very important issues on which we look forward to some concrete follow-up. So, our exchange today will be an opportunity to hear the views of our Turkish colleagues on the situation in the country, but also how Turkey views the development of cooperation with the Council of Europe, so that Turkey's commitments are effectively secured. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you, Thorbjørn. First of all, I'm very happy to be back at our common house, and this is my second home, and I spent almost 11 years here, and we all together promoted and defended our core values, and I learned a lot. And first of all, I would like to thank Marina and Thorbjørn for the kind invitation to address the Committee of Ministers today. And I will be delighted to share our views with ministers and deputies in 30 minutes. And secondly, I would like to thank once again for the firm support and solidarity from the Council of Europe, from the Council of Europe leadership, including the chair in the office, and Foreign Minister Marina Kaljurand, my dear friend, as well as Secretary General Thorbjørn Jagland, and the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Pedro Agramunt. They all visited us. Thorbjørn wanted to visit us from the beginning, but because of the heavy program in Ankara, we couldn't give a date for him, but he was there on the right time. And Marina Kaljurand and Pedro also visited us. And they saw what happened in Turkey and the damage, and they saw with their bare eyes. And they expressed their opinions, including the concerns, and they put the questions, whatever it is, and we openly answer those questions. So these are the sign of good dialogue between Turkey and the Council of Europe, and the sign of mutual trust. And we have never forget our commitments to this organization, even those very, very difficult days, the most difficult time for Turkish people and for us in our history. And we never forget that the rule of law should prevail, and everybody has to be brought to the justice. Even the ones who tried to assassinate president, they were not killed, but they were captured and brought to the justice, even that night. So only 30 of the plotters were killed during that night, but they killed 241 innocent people. They ran over the tanks, ran over the citizens, and they bombed the Turkish parliament. The aim of the attempted coup was overthrow all the democratic institutions in Turkey, including the parliament and democratically elected president and the government. And their aim was to assassinate all of us, including president, prime minister, ministers, myself. But thanks to the brave Turkish nation, we rejected this coup. And aftermath, the dialogue and engagement with Council of Europe has been very helpful. And we have been cooperating with Council of Europe to make this process very transparent. And that's why delegation of experts from the Minister of Justice came to Strasbourg last week. That's why we agreed to re-energize the working group between Turkey and the Council of Europe. And we have been welcoming not only the leadership, but Council of Europe institutions. And Turkey has been cooperating with the Council of Europe institutions, including the Human Rights Commissioner, and the Venice Commission, CPT, Greco, and all others. Particularly in the last 15 years, we have been taking the recommendations of the Council of Europe and its bodies into account while we have been reforming Turkey. Therefore, be assured that this process will be also very transparent, and the supervision of the European Court of Human Rights is still valid. And the Convention on Human Rights also is guideline for Turkey, even during this difficult time. And I will be very happy to share my thoughts and my experience and Turkey's experience in last 2 months after the bloody and deadly coup that we have faced. I have to, at the end, emphasize that we had even worse coup in the past. But none of them actually targeted civilians. None of them ran over tanks, over the civilians. And none of them bombed the Turkish parliament. And after those coup attacks in the past, Turkey's membership here was suspended. And thanks to the, again, brave nation and our efforts, this time they failed, and Turkey's membership to Council of Europe is still valid. And I really appreciate your support, your commitments, also your engagement. Thank you.
The ministers and the Secretary General will take some questions as far as time allows. Perhaps we start with the colleagues from Jagland.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Fili. I work for ARD Germany. I will have one question for you, Mr. Minister, and for you, Secretary General. First question is, what about the death penalty that was mentioned in Turkey, and President Erdogan mentioned that maybe it will come back if the folk wants it. And for you, Mr. Jagland, my question will be, what are your concerns about the prosecutions held nowadays in Turkey following the coup, the missed coup? Thank you very much.
Well, it was the demand of Turkish people right after the coup attempt, and the emotion was very high, and they couldn't forget what happened that night. Actually, those plotters bombed and shelled civilians, ran over the tanks, and we lost 241 citizens, innocent citizens, and 2,200 almost wounded, and many of them lost their organs. So it was the demand. What President Erdogan said was, actually, if the parliament adopts the death penalty, he will consider. So he left this issue to the parliaments. And there are 4 political groups in the Turkish parliament. So this issue has never been considered yet. But when you fully ignore what people ask, this is also against democracy. But it doesn't mean that you should actually consider everything or accept everything or adapt everything. But now we have better atmosphere to actually debate this issue in a more reasonable manner. So in Turkey, there are many politicians, many people who are against death penalty. Some of them are still for death penalty. Instead of trying to understand why people demand, threatening Turkey from Brussels and extending harsh statements or very negative statements actually triggered the emotions of people in Turkey. But some of our colleagues, including Marina and Thorbjørn and Pedro, they came and they expressed their concerns directly to us instead of making public statements and threatening Turkey from Strasbourg. Thank you.
Well, my concern is, well, if this had happened in any country in Europe, my concern would have been exactly the same, namely that when emotions are high, one may, of course, not be able to separate between those who really were behind the coup and those who were not, and what's important now is to see to it that all the judicial safeguards are in place and that the presumption of innocence prevails, so that evidences counts Only then we can say that there has been a judicial process in conformity with the European standards. So that's why I think it's so good to see that Turkish authorities want to discuss all this with us. This has started already. And this would have happened in any other country if such an outrageous coup had taken place. But actually, if you look at what took place, it is unprecedented in European history after the Second World War. That military tanks start to shoot at people in the streets, that the state's own airplanes bomb the parliament. And you see, this is something which must be understood, how outrageous it was and how unacceptable it was that it could happen on the European soil.
Colleague from Anadolu.
Yes. Turkish News Agency Anadolu, Murat Ünlü. My question is for Madam Foreign Minister. In general, Turkish people think Western countries didn't show enough reaction to condemn terrorist coup attempt. Today, there's a ministers' deputies meeting in Council of Europe. What's your expectations regarding this coup attempt today?
Thank you for your question. I can only say that I, as Estonian Foreign Minister, but also as the member of the EU, NATO, and now chairperson of the Committee of Ministers of Council of Europe, all we have expressed very firm solidarity with Turkish people, and we have condemned coup and made it very clear that there is no excuse for any coup attempts anywhere in the world. And we have very clearly expressed our firm solidarity with the democratically elected Turkish institutions. And the Secretary General said, yes, there is no question, those perpetrators, they have to be brought to justice. A couple of days ago, we had a very good discussion with Turkish European Integration Minister with foreign ministers of the EU. Today we have exchange of views here, and as I also said, Estonia bilaterally has excellent relations with Turkey. Turkey has always been our close friend, partner, and maybe for those who don't know, Turkey was among the few countries that never recognized Estonia's occupation. So when we restored our diplomatic ties in '91, we referred to the friendship agreement from 1924. So I'm sure that cooperation on all levels will continue, will be closer, and once again, Mevlüt, thank you for receiving the invitation, taking the invitation, and coming to Strasbourg.
Yeah, I think we have to close. I'm sorry, cameras are invited to take pictures in the committee of ministers meeting.
We go to my office and wait.